Hi, I'm Rashonda, and I'm the founder of ArtByRow.com, where you can find over 200 art and drawing tutorials. My goal is to encourage and inspire as many people as possible to make their creative time a part of their daily routine and to love everything that you make, whether it turns out the way you want it to or not. I'm glad you're joining me today, and I would appreciate it if you could hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoy these videos. It really helps me out and it helps the channel grow so I can reach more people. Therefore, I have a better chance of reaching my goals and hopefully helping you reach yours. In today's video, we're going to look at drawing some cactuses. I'm going to show you how to draw the cactus, but I also want to show you some different ways that you can come up with variations and to push your creativity a little bit. So let's go draw some cactuses, cactuses. We're going to go draw us a cactus, and then we're going to look at some different ways that you can push your creativity to draw some more. Let's head on over to the studio. I'm glad you're joining me today. Let's go create some art. Whenever I'm drawing something, especially if it's something I've never drawn before, I don't have a lot of experience with, I like to do a series of them, a series of drawings, and experiment with different styles, colors, designs, layouts, techniques. I like to just take it from one thing to the next and let my creativity lead me. So normally what I'll do is I call it a 7-day challenge, and I'll do 7 of the same theme drawings in roughly 7 days. It doesn't have to be exactly 7 days. Because I use this method, I do my drawings a lot on artist trading cards to save time. So this was probably the first one. I did these a while ago, so I don't really remember. But just as an example of why I do this, like this would be my first one. And at this point, I really hadn't ever drawn a cactus before. So I'll draw just a basic normal cactus. Then this one I did on a toned paper and played around with the sky a little bit, made the lines a little bit more wavy. So from this one to this one, this drawing's more interesting than this. And then from there, I played around with some different composition. And then again, sticking with that composition, but changing the way I do the colors and the line work a little bit. Again, on the tone paper, I added a flower to it just to play around with that idea a little bit. Then this one, I made it more of kind of a graffiti style line work with the squared off edges a little bit, put some mountains in the background. And then this last one, I played around with some patterns just to get a little more crazy, get it out there a little bit. So as you can see, as they progress, I feel like they get more interesting because I'm pushing myself a little bit. To me, these are kind of boring. This one I really like a lot. This one was fun to do. So you don't have to do it this way. This is how I work. I like doing the artist trading cards, and I like doing what I call the 7-day challenge, where really it's just doing a series of drawings in a short amount of time so that you can allow your creativity to expand and grow and take you to new areas. So if that sounds like something that would be beneficial to you, it's a really good way to get a lot of drawings done without having to think of what should I do next. So yeah, you got to figure out what design you're going to do next. But I know I'm doing 7 drawings that are all going to be a drawing of a cactus, and then I can just let my creativity take me wherever it wants to go. So if you like that idea, I think you should try it. Let me know how it works out for you. And we're going to go on to the step-by-step. So this part is completely optional. I like doing it. I think it's a good practice. It's a good warm-up. There's a lot of benefits to doing it. And what it is just a quick 3 to 5 minute rough out your ideas, get warmed up, get a little bit more familiar with whatever it is you're drawing. So for example, if we're going to be drawing some cactus, there's a lot of different ways to draw it. if it's something you're not familiar with, you've never drawn them before, or maybe you haven't drawn a ton of them, it's a good idea to just sort of work through some ideas, get familiar with them, and you can use any type of drawing utensil. You can use a pencil, a pen, a marker, it doesn't matter. What you want to do though is just focus on some quick, just basic shapes. What do they look like? There's, like I said, there's a lot of different types of cactus. And you could also, they could be out in the desert. Do you want them in a flower pot? And you want to just really loose, rough lines. You don't want to spend a ton of time on the detail. Like I said, 3 to 5 minutes. You can set a timer, or you could just sketch until your paper's filled up. Either way is fine, but really just working through some ideas. Hopefully you can see this. This isn't the darkest pen. It's kind of thin. Just working through some ideas, some details, different designs. What do you want your cactus to look like? Where do you want it to be? What shape do you want it to have? And you don't need to do any real specific details, just the basic shapes. Work through some designs. What do you like? What you don't like? And go ahead and let your imagination and your creativity take you wherever it wants to go. And by this, what I mean is, if you're drawing out some cactus and it makes you think of some mountains or whatever, go ahead and add it in. Just let your creativity and your flow take you wherever it wants. Don't hold back on anything. And this shouldn't really take more than just a few minutes. You want to keep your lines really loose. You don't want to worry about any super fine details. You can use scrap paper. I have a bunch of cardstock. This is some cheaper stuff that I bought that's a little bit too thin. I don't like using it for my drawings. So I'll use it a lot just for scrap paper to practice, work through some things. Cactus, sometimes they have flowers on them, sometimes they don't. You can have these little extra pieces coming off the sides or not. A lot of variation with cactus, a lot of different styles. Some are more circular in shape. You can add the lines, don't add the lines, play around with some different styles. Maybe you want something more abstract. But really just working through some different ideas. If you're working on your drawings and maybe you're drawn towards some more of a succulent type plant than a cactus, then go for it. Just, like I said, take it wherever it leads you. Don't hold back. Don't try to control it. And then when you have your paper filled or your timer goes off, whatever method you want to use, then you stop. You're done. Your warm up is finished. And that took 4 minutes to complete this while talking at the same time. So it's a quick exercise, a good way to work through some ideas. I think you should give it a try, but you can also skip this step if you want. Okay, we're going to start by laying out some basic shapes. And for this first drawing, we're just going to do a simple, just kind of your classic drawing of a cactus. And then from there, we can look at some different ways that you can make them look a little bit more interesting, try out some different ideas. But let's start with something really easy first. They're all going to be fairly simple, but this is just your basic cactus. So start with your center line. We want to get the shapes down. Typically, cactus will have these arms coming off of them. I like to offset them a little bit. You can make them so they're more across from each other, make it more symmetrical. To me, then it makes it look more human-like, which I don't want. I don't want it to look like the cactus is raising its arms up. So I like it better if you offset it. Then you want to draw these oval shapes at the ends. And what that does is gives us a guide to draw out the kind of like this ball shape at the end of the cactus. So the next thing, we got all these shapes down here. We're going to make the outline. And you can start from one of these arm pieces if it's easier. And you're going to follow it down and then bring it around, keeping in mind the thickness of this main area of the cactus. You want it to be a little bit wider up here at the top and then come in. You can angle it down more if you want. You can have it come across and then coming down. So like with everything we draw, there's a lot of variation that you can put into it and come up with quite a few different drawings just by following the same method. And then this one's gonna come down, come around there where that oval shape is, bring it down, tie it in. You could have this part right here overlap, or you could have it all connected. Same thing with this. You could bring your main cactus shape down and leave this line here so that this looks like it's behind and this other one's in front. And when you're doing this, while you're at your sketching phase using your pencil, make any changes if there's something that doesn't look quite right. Just erase it and fix it. That's why we start out with a pencil first. It makes it a lot easier to clean up the drawing, make any mistakes better, or anything that you don't quite like. I wouldn't say they're even necessarily mistakes. It's just something maybe you don't quite like how it looks. Just clean it up and fix it. So that's your basic, just a simple, normal style cactus. And then we want to look at maybe something a little more interesting. And we'll come back to this and color it and do some outlining on it. But I want to show you a couple different ways that you can make your cactus. Just something to think about to get you started. And then from there you can come up with as many different ideas as what you want. You're only limited to your imagination, so the more you can do, the more your imagination's going to expand. So I want to give you a couple ideas to get you going and hopefully spark some motivation and creativity, and then you can take off with it and do some really cool things. So that was just your basic simple cactus design. And then from there, like I said, we can outline it, add some background to it, color it in. Another thing that you can think about doing that's a really easy change that you can make to do something a little different is to play around with the composition. So one thing that is a little bit more interesting, it gives it a different look, is that you can have your composition to where the cactus runs, or whatever it is you're drawing, runs right off the edge of the paper. So this will be our main trunk area, or whatever you would call it, of the cactus. And we're going to have it run right off the edge of the paper. And then this one's going to come over. And you want to think about your negative space, how much area you want here, where your center point is, what you want your focal point to be. And then we're going to bring this one around, have this come across and down. And then that'll be our cactus that is, the composition has it going off the edge of the paper. And that's just a little bit different style to draw. Something could look a little bit more interesting. And then there's a lot of different things you can do when you add your coloring and your background. You still have a lot of variation from here even. Now the next thing we're going to do is add our outline. You can use whatever type of outlining pen you like using or marker. I like using black. You could use a color other than black if you wanted to. If you wanted to use green, maybe brown, I use whatever you want. And just go over your lines that you want to keep. This is where you'll have to decide if you want this line to show or if you want to leave it off and have that connect or not connect, depending on how you want it to look. Just go over the outside edge. Another thing you can do is to make the outside edge thicker. Will help your drawings look a little bit more interesting. You could also do just the bottoms. You could do one side and make it look more like it's shadowed. Again, there's a lot of different options, a lot of different variation you can add. You can take one drawing and just make some subtle changes to it and have a bunch of different variations of the same drawing and come up with a whole pile full of drawings just from one main drawing and then changing it up a little bit, trying some different things, which is what I like to do a lot of times with my drawings. I do them on artist trading cards because they're smaller. That's what this is. This is a artist trading card I cut out of cardstock. But it really saves a lot of time and makes it so I can do a series of drawings and I'm not dedicating a ton of time to it. So the next thing I like to do with the cactus is to go in and randomly add in some of these little hairs that are on the cactus, whatever those things are called. And you can do them randomly throughout. I think it looks better if you don't have any type of pattern to them. And I usually do just like clusters of like maybe 2 of them together. You can add some in this middle area if you want. And you don't have to put those in. I think it makes the cactus look a little bit better, but you don't have to do it. And then the other thing you can do is add some lines. And they can be solid where they go from all the way one line like this. Or they can be broken like that. Zoom in just a little bit here. And you want to do this throughout your whole cactus. I like making them wavy. You can experiment with some different things, which is another reason why I like doing the artist trading cards. Since they don't take a lot of time to do, it really frees me up to explore some creative options and to see if I like it or don't like it. So that's pretty much it for the details. The next thing you want to do is to take your eraser and get rid of all those pencil lines so you can get a better look at your outline. Make sure you didn't miss any areas. Sometimes when you're doing your outline after you erase the pencil, there's some gaps in there that need tightened up a little bit. So that's it for the outline. Then the next thing is if you want to do any type of a background, you can add, if you want to do a drawing, some kind of drawing in here, you can. Maybe you just want to do some patterns. Maybe you just want to fill it up with color. Completely up to you. You can make your background however you want. I like adding in some rocks, or sometimes I'll just do just plain color. and not do any type of a drawing. You could put some mountains in here if you want to do some mountains. You could do a sunset. Tons of options with how you want to do that. Maybe put some little pieces of grass, weeds, just to break it up a little bit. Add in some rocks or clumps of dirt or whatever you want to put in there. You could put some other cactus in the background, maybe some smaller ones back there. All kinds of options for your background. So that's it for the outline. If you were going to outline this one, you would do the same thing. It would just be, everything would be bigger because it's kind of zoomed in. But you would follow that same process on that one. So now that you got your outline done, it's time to add some color. And what I like to do is, I have these little scrap pieces of cardstock that are left over from when I cut out my artist trading cards. And you can just do a little test piece of your colors. And I'm using alcohol-based markers. I like using them because they blend together really nicely. So usually I'll use 3 colors, and I have a variety of different brands. I've collected them over the years just from trying different markers out and whatnot. And I kind of have some go-to markers that I like to use that I know blend good together. And so as you can see, I have this Shinhan Touch marker. It's kind of like a yellowish orange or a yellow green. And then I have one of them's a Sharpie and one of them's a Bic marker. But they'll all blend together really well. It doesn't matter what the brand is. You can mix and match. And then just start filling in your areas of color. And you want to work in sections at a time, because if you do the whole thing and let your first color dry, it's going to be a lot harder to blend them in together. So if you want your colors to have a smoother transition, you need to work while the color's still wet. And typically the way I work light to dark. So I'll put my lightest color down first. Then I do my medium color. And then I go in with the darker one on the edges and darken it up. You want to avoid using just one color to fill it in. You don't want to just grab a random green marker and fill your entire cactus in with one color. It'll make it look really flat. By using 2 or 3 different colors, it'll give it some depth and make it look a lot more interesting. If you want your colors to look flat, if that's your style or if that's the style you're going for, that's perfectly fine. But just make sure you're being intentional with the colors that you're using. You don't want to just randomly color it in. If what you've always done in the past is just filled everything in with one solid color, and you look at other artwork and wonder why yours doesn't look as good, why your color isn't as nice looking, it could be because you're just using one color. So pay attention if you're looking at artwork online and admiring it. Look at what it is about that artwork that you're admiring. What is it that is interesting to you? Pay more attention to what's going on and what they're doing differently that you're not doing. So that's it for the cactus part. One thing you can do, you don't have to do it this way, but it's something I do a lot of times with my drawings, is I'll take whatever the main image is on it, and I'll add this color of like a halo around it, just to help it stand out a little bit. Sometimes these things are just a go-to style that you use because you're not sure what else to do, and that's okay if you have a go-to way to color. You can stick with that, or you can try something different. And I don't want this color to blend in with the rest of my background. So I'm gonna go ahead and let that dry a little bit. Let the alcohol in it evaporate so that it stands out from the rest of this color I'm gonna put back there. And you have a lot of options with your colors that you use. You can make them just solid. I could throw another blue color in there. I could do a transition of colors and use warm colors and make it look like a sunset or a sunrise. It's just a personal preference, whatever you're feeling with the drawing that you're doing. Again, so many different ways you can add variation to your drawings. You could do the same exact drawing and put 10 different backgrounds in there and make the finished piece of art look completely different. So I'm going to lay down just this light brown color, and then I want a brown that's a little bit darker. I'm going to use that just to add some darker areas, break it up a little bit, put some shadows in there, and then I can use this color to darken up these rocks or whatever they are, chunks of dirt, whatever they are, doesn't really matter. We just want to break it up a little bit. And then I can go back in with my lighter color and soften up those edges a little bit. Again, that's a personal preference for your style. If you want those harder edges where your color variations are, that's fine. You can have harder edges. Totally up to you. Just do whatever feels right and looks right to you. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on the ground. The focus is on the cactus, so I don't care a ton about the background. Now I could leave this just like it is. Yeah, I could add another line around the outside edge there. I could fill this in. Again, so many different options of how to finish your drawings up with the color. And a lot of ways to add variation just from doing a couple things differently. I think I'm going to leave that one just like that. That's a little bit different from some of the cactus drawings I've done in the past. And now I'm going to find my white jelly roll pen. And these work really, really well to add white to your drawings. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of the gel will dry up on the tip and you just need to scribble on a piece of paper, wipe it up. You could add a couple little white highlights. Maybe some highlights on the rock. These work really well over top of markers. And that is it for the color. If you wanted to do several drawings, you could do several drawings and come up with some different variations. See what ideas you can come up with. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it useful. And I really hope it inspires you to make some of your own cactus. And that's it for today's video. And I will see you soon. Happy creating!